Hello, so in today's video I'm going to talk a little bit about consciousness and what that really is. I may have covered some of this information in previous videos, in particular the video about subjective nature of reality, but I just thought it'd be useful to expand this knowledge with a basic rundown from a consciousness perspective. So what is consciousness? Consciousness is the pure essence of awareness. Basically, without consciousness we couldn't experience anything. There would be no reality. And there are different various models of understanding, but for me, I just found it most useful just to divide it into the conscious and unconscious mind, because this basically covers the entirety of both concepts of the known and unknown. So to begin with, I will just explain my understanding of the conscious mind. So the conscious mind processes information bit by bit, frame by frame, but it happens so quickly everything just plays out like a seamless movie, just like in a cinema. It's basically how we sense, we think, analyze, diagnose, understand, identify, separate, problem solve, label, etc. A conscious mind is also dualistic or binary by nature. So what that means is everything is processed in ones and zeros, or on and off, or positive and negative, black and white. Basically, pure undifferentiated information is processed and filtered by the conscious mind to give us the experience of I am here and you're there, or this is a chicken and that is a brick. This is just how we measure our experience. It's what makes things real. However, what's real for you might not be real for others. This is why everybody's so unique. Therefore, some may think the dress is black and blue, where others may think it's gold and white. This is essentially the difference between delusion and reality, which all depends on numbers. The more people agree on something, the more that thing becomes a reality. Socially accepted reality anyways, but however, the reality about your reality is if it works for you, that's all that really matters. To one degree or another, of course. For example, if you decided to jump off a cliff and fly, then you might regret it. So whenever we're learning something new, we're always using our conscious mind. For example, learning to drive a car or learning a new language, it often takes a lot of time and hard work to get there, and this is effort, therefore sometimes very stressful. I remember the first few times I got in a car learning to drive, I thought I was going to die. There was so many things to consider and pay attention to, and just trying to multitask and learn something new at the same time is, well, certainly a challenge. So when it comes to our unconscious mind, the unconscious mind is far more powerful compared to our conscious mind. Basically, if you think computer source code versus what you see on your screen, what you see on your screen is only a portion of what's going on in the background. Scientists believe around 90% of our daily actions are initiated and performed unconsciously. For instance, if you've ever driven to work only to realize you can't even remember how you got there, most of us do it one way or another. Basically, when a task is repeated enough, eventually it becomes automatic. This is when information gets transferred to the unconscious mind. Basically, which means if you perform a new task, you repeat the task becomes a habit, unconscious program created, just like magic. To give an example, when you speak the words you speak, you don't think about it, do you? You just do it. When you were a child learning to speak, you listened and practiced those words again and again until they become second nature. And this is what we do with almost everything we learn, whatever the task may be. The behavior of the unconscious mind can also explain the phenomenon called the mere exposure effect, which is, let's say you hear a song for the first time and you hate it. It's just rubbish. And then you hear it again in a supermarket, and then again at work, and then in a car, and then before long you catch yourself actually singing along to it, or actually beginning to like it, and you don't even know why. Well, it's repetitious exposure that brings familiarity, and it's this familiarity that often brings its comfort, regardless if this thing actually resonates with us or not. This is just how amazing the unconscious mind is. As a receiver, the unconscious mind downloads an incredible amount of information per second, way more than a conscious mind can handle. Therefore, sometimes information can just slip by the conscious mind and go straight into the unconscious, which is how subliminal messages and the power of suggestion work. When the conscious mind is distracted, information from the corner of your eye can just be downloaded and stored without ever even realizing. This sort of behavior can also explain what happens during a traumatic event, where the conscious mind can shut down trying to protect us from some sort of situation, but information can still continue to leak into the unconscious. And for this reason, irrational, unexpected fears will always be based on something in the unconscious. For example, early childhood experiences are usually a major source. Children are highly receptive to new information as they develop. So if a child was to experience something overly intense or frightening, then it could affect them unconsciously for the rest of their life until there was a resolution. This is why the concept of connecting with your inner child can be so effective, because it basically provides a doorway into the unconscious past where you can release and resolve these forgotten traumas. Sometimes all it takes is a conscious recognition of an unconscious problem, and the problem can just resolve itself. This is how some of my exercises in my previous videos can have such a massive impact. Whether working with sacred geometry, or numbers, or patterns, or whatever, it's all just different ways of interacting and therefore revealing information from the unconscious mind, just so it can be simply observed and to give it space to resolve itself. I often like to work with the unconscious mind through a sacred geometry perspective simply because it's the language of the unconscious mind, which is symbols. Everything brought up from the unconscious is symbolic, because if you remember what I said earlier, the unconscious mind is so powerful. The only way it can communicate with the conscious mind is to reduce the information down to an almost stupid level. It's like trying to get a modern PC to communicate with a 1980s computer. It's not going to be very smooth. This is why our dreams are usually symbolic, because most of the time what we experience in our dreams is something from the unconscious mind. So you'll be pleased to know that if you found yourself in a dream doing something rather out of character, then it's probably symbolic of something else. So anyways, I think I will be leaving you with that for today. This was a very quick run through about consciousness, but I thought it'd just be useful to get the basics down. But there'll be more to come in future videos. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you all again soon.